If you've been following along in my videos lately, then you might know that I've been talking a lot about being more focused. My whole mantra this year is that if I can be more focused, then I can also be more balanced. And that is what I'm really working on in this season of my life. You know, your life goes through seasons. And so I had my, in school season, and I had my trying to figure out how the heck I was gonna teach season, and I had my work my butt off in my business season. And not that I'm not working hard now, because I am working really hard, but I have been more in my balance era and trying to get that sorted and trying to just have, better life balance and with all of the different things. So this year I am all about focus and balance. Those are two things I'm looking at. And today in particular, we're going to talk about some different things that you can do that are simple to implement, because y'all know how I like practical tips of things you can do to find more focus this year. So I'm not necessarily talking about having a short attention span. I'm talking more about how you can be focused in your life to make sure that you're doing the things that you actually want to do and not wasting time on other things. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, and especially if you're here because you're like, oh my gosh, I have a job and I have a side hustle and I have a family and I have all of these different things going on, definitely hit the subscribe button down below, because on this channel we talk all things side hustles and productivity and planning and just really how to live your best life while also reaching your goals and all those things. So those are the things that we're talking about over here. And I also post vlogs because I love the behind the scenes. And if you're looking for a way to see how to do those things on the day-to-day, behind the scenes vlogs are where it's at, because they're behind the scenes. So there we go. All right, so let's talk about being focused. I have to laugh when I say that, because I am very, what do we call it? Multi-passionate, which means I'm just into lots and lots of different things, which is why I have 3 YouTube channels, and I have 2 TPT shops, and I have a full-time job, and I teach at church, and there's a lot of things going on in my life because I just love so many different things, and I just want to be able to do all the different things. And this has been the internal struggle that I've had for years and years and years of I have so many things I'm interested in. How do I do them all? Unfortunately, the answer has been there's only so many things you can do at the same time, and focusing helps you to do those things. So before we get into this, I do want to say focus can mean a lot of different things, but in this context, I'm talking about how to focus on the things you want to focus on so that your life can go the way you want. Okay? So let's talk about focusing. Number 1 is to have super clear goals. If you want to be focused, you have to have something you're focusing on. So you need to know where you're headed, what your goal is, what you want out of life. There's a couple different things that I have of this. I'll link a whole goals playlist down below, because this is a whole can of worms. But basically, I want to know a couple things. Number 1 is long-term, where do I see myself? So 10 years, 20 years, way down the line, what do I want to be doing? I'm not gonna lie, when I think about it, I'm I want to be sipping coffee on my balcony and my beautiful house that overlooks a nice calm river, and it's all quiet except for the birds chirping and the river in the background, and I'm writing or painting or things like that, because those are things I'm into. And so when I start thinking is this a good fit for me, I start thinking about that version of Becca. What does that version of Becca need? Well, that version of Becca needs enough money that I can buy a fancy house. That version of Becca needs to be writing or painting or whatever it is that I want to do. Those are things I need to do. That version of Becca, those are things that version of Becca needs in order to get there. Okay, so when you think about long term, what do you want? And it doesn't have to be super specific. Mine's specific because I've been thinking about it a lot, but yours doesn't have to be that specific. And that's something that's way out there. What colors those? Our horizon goals. I didn't come up with that, but now I can't remember the guy who did. So I apologize to him. He had a really good podcast on Ali Abdal's podcast. Anyway, so horizon goals are long term. What are we aiming at? Then we need to know, what are we aiming at more in the shorter term? So 1 to 3 years. What are we working on? So future long time horizon Becca needs next 2 to 3 years Becca to pay off debt, to put money in the bank for said new house. Needs this Becca to write things now so that I can write things later, you know? Like those are things that I need to do in the next couple of years in order to hit that long-term dream. Then you need to know, okay, well, what are the goals like for right now? So what do I need to do this year in order to do those things? So like this year I'm working on writing a book, and so that's something that I'm working on this year. So I know that that's one of my focuses for this year. I would say have just a couple of focuses, if you can, 3 to 5. I like kind of like 3 to 5 businessy things, and then like 3 to 5 life kind of things for a year. And then throughout a month I pick 3 to 5 total that are things I want to focus on, things I want to work on. But having those like focuses and having those goals gives you a direction in life that you can go, and so you're not just like aimlessly wandering around, because I know J.R.R. Tolkien said not all who wander are lost. Those who wander usually don't end up where they're trying to go either. So if you were trying to go somewhere in life, you need to make sure that you know where that place is. Okay? Okay. Number 2, look at the data. So whether this is that, you know, future you, your goal is to lose weight or to have a business or to whatever, you need to look at your data. So this is more talking to the side hustle business owner people, but look at your data and see what is actually working and what you should continue. So if I look at my data, I can see which products are working, which means I need to promote those products. I need to make more products like that. Like those are the things I need to lean into. I can see which content things are doing best on YouTube here, and I can say, oh, these videos are doing well, let's do more of those videos. And that gives me a direction and a focus to go. I don't need to focus on the things that are not actually helping me move forward. And as a multi-passionate person, this is a really hard pill to swallow. So I'm just telling you that you need to look at the data, because the data tells you what you need to do. Okay? If you can do that, you can have that focus, it'll give you more time and you'll get more results faster if you're looking at the data. In a like personal thing, if you're trying to lose weight, okay, the data would be your habits. How many days are you eating well? How many days are you exercising? Those are your data points. Look at your data and see what's working. If you don't have data, then you need to get some. If you're a teacher, then you need to look at your students' data and see what's working for them. What, you know, what did you do that's actually helping them? Those are things we want to do more of. So look at your data and do more of what is actually working. Number 3 is something I talk about a lot, and that is time blocking / having an ideal week. So an ideal week is where you basically say, on a perfect normal week, this is what I would like to do. And the magic in an ideal, well, here. So like here's mine. So it's like morning, I have a line, that's where I'm at work. I know it looks small, but it's actually hours and hours and hours, and then like afternoon. And so the idea behind this is like, if I had a normal week, what time would I get up? And what would I do? What time do I need to go to work? What time do I need to leave work? What time do I need to get home? What do I need to do when I get home? What are we gonna eat dinner? Like those are all questions that you need to answer that I can't answer for you, unfortunately. And you need to put into your ideal week. So when I do my ideal week, which I typically do at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, because like some things have already changed since January. Okay. I do blocks of time. So these are 30-minute increments, and you can see sometimes I have like lines. So I have blocks of different things that I need to do. So I have blocks of times I need to work on the business. I have blocks of time where I need to clean. I have blocks of time where I need to make dinner. And having those blocks gives you a really good starting point. Now, does every week look like this? No. Most of them won't, to be fully honest, you know, because yesterday was Wednesday. I was supposed to come home, like ideally, I was supposed to come home, film, cook dinner, eat dinner, and then have the afternoon or the evening off, because I try to do, I either work before or after dinner, but not both. So since I film when the sun's out, I then don't do something after work. But that didn't happen because obviously it's Thursday and I'm filming now, which it says I'm not doing. It says I'm doing yoga. But I had to switch things around because yesterday I had to go and stop at my mom's office to drop off my tax stuff. Yay. And if this video ends up going like way out in the future, I promise it is before the deadline. I gave her like a whole week. My mom's a tax preparer. I should have led with that. So I took time to go there, and then, oh my gosh, it was supposed to take 30 minutes to get home and it took an hour. And so like those are things that happen on a normal basis. And so that is okay. It's not like you must stick to this all the time. It's just, hey, here's a general idea of what I would like to do, and then we can adjust from there. But it's so much easier to adjust than to try to just come up with it off the top of your head. And having an ideal week is just super helpful to make sure that you get in the things you want to do. You have time for what you need to do. So I can see like, oh, it's really important to me to get work done so that I can, you know, grow my business. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm working here and I'm working here and here and here. And that tells me how, you know, I can see visually, yes, I am focusing on what matters to me, 1. 2, I can see, this is how much time I have. How many things can I get done in that amount of time? And so for me, it's really helpful as a limiting version of looking at my ideal week and being like, nope, I do not have time for that, because these are the things that I said are the most important things to me. Okay, so like for me, it's important for me to read. And so reading is in my ideal week, and it's important for me to, you know, move my body. So I have workouts in here, and I have dog walks and yoga and different things like that in here, and I have places where I'm playing piano, and like I have those things built in because those are the things that I said are important to me. So look at what things are important to you and see how you can fit them in your schedule. This helps to make sure that you are doing the things that are important to you, you're focusing on the things that are important to you, and that you're eliminating things that are not in your schedule. If you're looking at this and you're like, I don't have time for that, then you don't do it. Okay? And you don't have to feel guilty about it because it's your life. You can do whatever the heck you want. Okay? Okay. So number 3, well, here, let's review. Number 1 is have clear goals, both long-term and short-term. Number 2 is look at the data and make sure you're doing what's actually going to help you move forward and not doing things that are not helping. Number 3 is time blocking and creating an ideal week. Number 4, planning ahead. Now, it doesn't have to be super far ahead, but plan ahead so you know what you're doing. I feel like I say this a lot, but people still are not getting it. You have to have a plan. Don't sit down in front of your computer and be like, I'm gonna work, and not know what you're gonna do, because you're not gonna work. You're gonna spend the whole time being like, oh, maybe I should do this. Oh, maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do this. And then you're gonna like end up doing something completely useless. You can't focus if you don't know what you're focusing on. So sit down and take 5 minutes, 10 minutes to just be like, hey, these are the things I'm gonna do. The great thing about having an ideal week is that all I have to do is plug and play. So I know, I'm gonna work in these blocks. What am I gonna do in those blocks of time? Some of them are routines, like on Thursday mornings, I write emails. So I do that every Thursday morning. Others are, you know, things that move around, like maybe I filmed this day, maybe I filmed that day. Others are things like this week I'm working on posting products, whereas last week I was working on creating products, and next week I'm working on updating products. So like things can change in there, but it's really easy for me to be like, oh, I need to write emails. Here are the emails I'm gonna write. Cool. The end. I also, little side note, like to have what I call a default task. And so a default task is just like what you're going to default to, literally. So if you're like, oh, I have an extra couple minutes, I'll have something scheduled or something gets canceled or different things like that, then what are you going to do? Because usually it's scroll social media, and that's not actually helpful. So instead, have a default task of reading a book, or a default task of vacuuming the floor, or a default task of writing blog posts. That's one of my default tasks this week, because I am trying to get my blog posts written earlier this year than normal, because I usually batch them during the summer. I'm trying to batch them April and May, so they're done before the summer. That's my goal, so we'll see how that goes. So when I have 10 minutes and I'm standing in line, I'm pulling out my phone and I'm writing a couple sentences in a blog post. And is it gonna like change my world? No. But does it help? Yes. So having those things that you are planning ahead, you know what you're doing, and also plan for how much you're gonna complete. So you might have enough time to write a whole blog post. You might only have enough time to write a few paragraphs. Be clear with yourself about how much you aim to complete, so that that way you're working to completion, or at least to a stopping point, instead of to like an arbitrary number of minutes. So if I'm like, I'm gonna write one blog post, then I know I'm gonna finish that blog post. Versus if I'm like, I'm gonna write, you know, the introduction to a blog post, then I know I have less, because if I have less time. So just make sure you know what you want to get completed by the end of that work session. And that could be with anything. If you're gonna work out, what are you gonna do when you work out? There's lots of different workouts you can do. Have a plan. Then you're not sitting there doing that. That's the worst. When I'm like on YouTube trying to find a workout video and I'm like, I found if I picked one out the night before, then in the morning when it's 5 and it's early and my brain's not working, I can just be like, pull it up from last night. Boom, there we go. So have a plan ahead, and plan to complete a task. Number 5 is, it may not seem like a focus thing, but I promise it is. And this has been my revelation over the last couple of years. I know I sound so pathetic because I just sound like I work all the time. It's kind of true, but I'm changing that. Okay, so number 5 is plan time for fun and for rest. And the reason this is in focus is because, first of all, it has been proven in lots of different studies that people who have breaks perform better because you're not exhausted. Just think about personal experience. How hard is it to do something when you're exhausted versus when you're well rested? Okay, like it's probably a very different experience and you get a lot more done, but it also helps to prevent burnout, which is like long-term, not what you're supposed to do, and to make sure that you're focusing on the right things, aka yourself. So think fun and time for rest built into your week in that ideal week, so that you know that you are getting sleep and you know that you're gonna get some fun stuff. And it also helps with things like, for example, I didn't want to film videos today. I was like, ugh, I don't want to film videos, I'm kind of tired. We were testing this morning, it was not fun. Like, it was just like, things were weird. I hate when the schedule is messed up. That's like my least favorite thing ever. It doesn't happen very often anymore at my new school, but it's like my least favorite thing ever. It just like throws me totally off. And so I was feeling like all sorts of things, and I was like, no, I'm gonna film, because tomorrow I know I'm going out to Mexican for dinner, so I'm gonna go and have fun, and I know I'm not gonna work tomorrow. And so having that to look forward to and knowing like you're gonna get that break also makes it easier to do your work now, because you're not just like, I'm working all the time. I get really mad at myself when I feel like I'm working all the time, because then I'm like, oh, I have no time to do anything, I'm just working all the time. And then I'm like, Becca, it's your own fault. So there we go. But still, so make sure you have time for rest and for fun stuff built in, so you get that time and you don't have to stress about it, and you know you're actually gonna get it, and you'll perform better. Number 6 is to get your mind right. Listen, this has been monumental in the difference that I have felt in the last couple of months, because I've been focusing on getting my mind right. I have really realized that I get really worn out when there's a lot of noise going on. 1. 2, I realized that my brain just goes like all the time. And so basically it's like crazy, and then I like crash and fall asleep. And so I realized that I need to, oh, I woke the dog up. I have been working on having more quiet times so that my brain doesn't feel as stressed. And in that, I've been doing 2 specific things. So number 1 has been journaling. I've loved journaling for years, but I was doing it like once a week, and I have upped that to like 3, 4, 5 times a week, and it has legitimately changed my life. Like, I know that sounds really dramatic, but it has changed my life. And just like, it wasn't going from 0 to, you know, 100. It was going from like 1 to 3, 1 to 4, whatever. And it has made the biggest difference ever, because I have so many things that I'm like, oh, I gotta do this, gotta do this, gotta do this. And I have all these different thoughts. And if I write them down, they get out of my head. And then I don't have to think about them anymore. And it creates so much brain space. It has been monumentally transformative. I highly recommend. I know not everyone is into journaling. I know not everyone's into writing, but seriously, try it. Try it. I know a lot of people talk about doing morning pages, which is from the book The Artist's Way. I haven't read it yet. I should read it. But they suggest 3 handwritten pages of journaling a day. That's just like a brain dump. I just kind of do however much I feel like, basically. Sometimes it's, you know, 2 or 3, and sometimes it's like 10, but it's really helpful to just get all the things out of your brain and onto paper, and then you don't have to think about it, and it creates room in your brain, and then you're not stressed, and then you can refer back to it if you're like, oh, what was that thing I was thinking about? I can look, and I'm like, that was that thing I was thinking about. Okay, so you don't have to stress about it. The other thing that has been really helpful in getting my mind right is finding little bits of quiet. So for me, a couple things I've been doing are reading has been helpful. Moving has been a big thing. I've been really trying to, when I get home, either take the dogs for a walk or do yoga. And both of those are great because I'm moving my body, but I'm also kind of quieting my mind. I don't listen to anything when I do them. I don't watch anything when I do them. Like, I'm not talking to people. I'm just enjoying time with my dogs. They're actually both time with my dogs because when I do yoga, they like to attack me. So it's like extreme yoga. But those things also give me a lot of like mind peace. And I found on days that I feel really out of sorts, 5-10 minutes of yoga, life-changing. I know, I sound crazy, but here we are. I swear. Now, get your mind right by moving, journaling, getting some space in your brain, and capture everything else. So when I say capture, I don't mean like, you know, attack or anything. When I say capture, I mean write it down. So this is not like journaling, like, oh, I'm writing all this stuff, but just like, oh, I have a thought, write it down. Because this does 2 things. Number 1, if it's something you need to focus on, you have it there. You have it somewhere you can find it. I usually capture things in just my planner. I just use a notebook. Or if it's something that's more long-term, so like I do content ideas and things in my bullet journal. Sometimes I use just my phone and I'll just write down a note. But if I have a thought, I write it down. And it helps you to make sure that if you need to come back to that, you have it. So, you know, focus there. But it also helps you focus right now, because if I'm filming a video and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, that's a great idea for a video, I write it down and I move on. I'm not trying to film it right now. So I'm not breaking my focus now by trying to do something else. If you're, you know, writing something, you're writing a blog post, you're writing a book, whatever you're trying to write, you're typing things out and you have a thought, instead of going and, you know, searching for whatever that thing is that you're thinking about, write it down and come back to it later. And it helps you focus on what you're doing now without forgetting that other thing that you need to do. Because if I don't write it down, I'm probably gonna forget. So write everything down, capture all those thoughts that you have so that you can come back to them and so that they're not distracting you here and now. All right, so far we have having clear goals, looking at your data, time blocking an ideal week, planning ahead, plan time for fun and rest, get your mind right, capture everything else. And the last one is a little more specific, and that is what I call the weekly scorecard or the weekly review. So at the end of each week, I like to sit down and just have a little review session with myself and figure out, what did I do? What did I plan to do? Did the week go how I thought it would? Did the week not go how I thought it would? Did I get things done that I wanted to get done? Did I focus this week? Was I not focused this week? Did I, you know, completely throw my plan away? And I look at all those things not as a judgmental thing, but as like a, I want to make sure that I'm focusing on the right things, which means I need to make sure that I'm staying on track. And so having a weekly review allows you to look at your last week and say like, okay, these are the things I got done. These are the things I wanted to get done, and kind of seeing that disparity and then adjusting for next week. So if I didn't focus on the things I wanted to focus on, next week I can focus on things. Specifically, one thing I really like doing is what I call the weekly scorecard. So for this is more, for me, habit-based. So I have a whole bunch of habits that I track. Mine are all like health related. So it's like workouts and dog walks and eating right and drinking water and how many steps I take, and like those kind of things are in mine. And so I add all of those up. Every habit gets a point value. So some that are more important get more points, some that are less important get less points. They all get a point value, and I add up the week and see what my score is for the week. And this is so helpful. If you need actual practical data you can look at and course correct from there, because I can see if I am on track or not, because I can see how many points I have and I can adjust it to other weeks. So just on the side, I have like a scale of like, you know, this number to this number is bad, this number to this number is okay, this number to this number is great, good, and then this number is great. So I can see like kind of where I fell in there, and then I can correct from there. I like doing this on a weekly basis because a week is short enough that you're not gonna like really mess yourself up. Okay, think about like an airplane, and if an airplane is going this way and then it starts going this way, here, you know, this to this is not the end of the world, but here to here is a huge difference. So you know, being a couple of degrees off can make a really big deal. So you want to make sure that you're correcting and course correcting and making sure you're staying on track and being focused every week. Also having that, like, it's really like a no excuses. You have to look at it and you have to see the actual reality of what's happening. And so that is really helpful too, because you can't deceive yourself, you know? So that is a great way to make sure you are staying focused. And if you're not focused enough one week, then you can make sure you fix it for next week. So that's a couple of different ways that you can find more focus this year. Some of them are more tangible than others, but all of them are super helpful. And kind of the combination of everything really helps me to feel more focused already. I've been working really hard on this the past few months, and so it's still something I'm working on. I'm trying to be more focused so that I can then be more balanced, because my whole idea is if I'm focused on the things that, you know, actually move my business forward, I don't have to work as much. If I'm focused on the things I'm actually interested in, I'm not wasting time on other things, which means that I have more time for what I am interested in, and I'm just working on creating that focus. So if you have anything you would add to that, having a nice focused life, let me know down below in the comments. I'm gonna go because the dog's making all the noise in the world and I think they want dinner. I would also like dinner. So, I'll see you next one. Bye.